I've been there scrolling through endless listings, seeing a shiny saxophone in a glossy photo, reading the professional grade badge, and then wondering if it will actually sit right in your hands, respond to your breath, and stay in tune when you finally get to the gig. Too often the hype on a page doesn't match the experience on stage, and the last thing you want is to spend a fortune on an instrument that feels more like a decoration than a tool. That's why I'm breaking down the Yamaha YAS 875EXII custom professional alto saxophone in a way that lets you see past the polish and decide whether it's truly the right fit for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of player who usually ends up buying a custom series sax. Yamaha's custom line is aimed squarely at advanced students, conservatory musicians, and working professionals who need a reliable, expressive voice that can handle everything from jazz improvisation to orchestral excerpts. If you're still in the early stages of learning, you might find the price point and the level of nuance a bit overwhelming. On the other hand, if you've been playing for several years, own a mid-range instrument, and feel it's starting to limit your dynamic range or tonal control, the YAS 875EXII could be the upgrade that finally lets you explore those subtleties without having to switch brands. What really sets this sax apart from a standard intermediate model is the combination of annealed brass and the V1 neck. The annealed brass means the tube walls have been heat-treated to become a bit softer and more resonant. In practice, I noticed that the instrument produces a richer low-end warmth when I roll out a low BB, and the overtones sit more naturally in the middle register. The V1 neck, a design borrowed from Yamaha's top-end professional line, gives a slightly tighter bore profile that helps lock the pitch in place, which is a huge relief for players who have struggled with the sax slipping just a few cents off when they shift from soft to loud dynamics. In a real-world rehearsal, that stability translates to fewer frantic adjustments and more focus on phrasing. The semi-hard case with a gold lacquer finish is another practical point that often gets overlooked in reviews that only talk about tone. The case isn't just a pretty shell. It's built with a reinforced frame and foam padding that cushions the instrument during travel. I've taken this sax to a regional competition, packed it in the case, and after a 3-hour car ride the lacquer was still glossy and there were no dents or misalignments. For gigging musicians who shuffle between venues, that durability adds a layer of peace of mind you don't get from a softer gig bag. Now, the mouthpiece. Yamaha paired the sax with an Ebonite 4cm mouthpiece, which is a medium-sized tip opening that sits nicely between a student and a big band mouthpiece. The Ebonite material gives a warm, centered sound without the harshness some metal mouthpieces can produce. In my testing, the 4cm let me get a solid sweet spot in the mid-range without having to chase the reed excessively. That said, if you're a player who has already dialed in a specific mouthpiece size, say a 5.5 or a 3.5, you'll probably need to experiment a bit to see if the 4cm feels natural. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to factor in if you already have a well-matched mouthpiece reed setup. One of the hidden trade-offs with the custom series is the weight. The annealed brass and the extra thick bell give the sax a solid, almost anchored feel, which many professionals love because it adds a sense of presence when you stand on stage. However, that same heft can be tiring during a long marathon set or a rehearsal that runs over 2 hours. I found that taking short micro breaks to shake out the instrument helped, but if you have a history of shoulder or back strain, you might want to pair this sax with a supportive harness or consider a lighter model. From a value standpoint, the YAS 875EXII's price is high. Yamaha isn't trying to be cheap. The real value comes from the fact that you're buying a platform that's already been vetted by countless conservatory graduates and touring professionals. The instrument holds its intonation across the full range, responds quickly to subtle changes in embouchure, and the gold lacquer isn't just aesthetic, it also adds a thin protective layer that resists minor scratches from regular handling. In my experience, a sax that stays in tune with minimal adjustment can actually save you money in the long run because you avoid frequent professional setups. Let's talk weaknesses, because no instrument is perfect. The biggest complaint I've heard from owners of other custom models is that the key action can feel a tad heavier out of the box. Yamaha does a good job with the ergonomics, but you'll likely need a quick adjustment from a tech to smooth out the key springs to your personal preference. It's not a major repair, just a